Welcome to your news at 10. And on tonight's show, West Ham Premier League fixture with Manchester City could be postponed. Newcastle won Northern Ireland, or Republic of Ireland teenage sensation Sean Moore. And finally, Noble's Academy wish. Good evening and welcome back to the West Ham Network for your news at 10. And let me get straight into it. West Ham United's Premier League fixture with Manchester City could be postponed. Now, that's down to the fact that West Ham have a clash against Man City booked in for the 19th of March, and it could be moved to a later date. The report claims that if Manchester City progress past the fifth round of the FA Cup, the game at the Etihad Stadium will likely be called off and a future date will be agreed. Now, West Ham are heading to Old Trafford to face Manchester United in the domestic cup competition, while Guardiola's side will face Bristol City. We are set to face them on the 19th. However, results elsewhere could see that match moved. Both West Ham and Man City, who are in the fifth round of the FA Cup, and if either side are to advance to the next phase of the competition, that fixture will likely be postponed as well. So there you go. It's not anything to do with the situation that Man City are currently in. However, that is a topic for another conversation. Next up, looks like Newcastle are intensing their interest in young Northern Ireland star Sean Moore. Now, the interesting thing is the Republic of Ireland have called the young player up to their team. Now, he has represented Northern Ireland at under 18 level, non-competitive grade, and Republic of Ireland have intensified their attempts to secure the international allegiance of Cliftonville's teenage star Sean Moore by including the winger in the under-19 training camp earlier today. And after being handed a senior debut at 16 last season, Moore has made 21 appearances this term in the Irish League. Leaders who rebuffed six-figure offers from UK clubs for their star before last week's transfer deadline day. Like I said, he's represented Northern Ireland at 18s level, at non-competitive grade. And when it comes to FIFA's eligibility rule, meaning he is free to play for either North or Republic in qualifiers and then switch up to full international level. Both teams have under-19 elite qualifiers coming up in late March, but the Irish FA youth chief Gerard Little has earmarked Moore for next season's campaign, from which, as hosts, Northern Ireland are guaranteed finalists. But it remains whether to be seen if Tom Mohan, the under-19's boss, plan on promoting Moore a year earlier for this season's qualifiers as well. So that is something to be considered. Now, Moore, who's considered to be a relatively late developer, has already gained an army of admirers both home and abroad. West Ham, as we know, tried to do a bid and bring the player in for around about £200,000. But other Premier League clubs are sniffing about. Brighton and now Newcastle United have earmarked this player for coming in to their club. Now, Cliftonville did decide to reject West Ham's bid in the eagerness to retain their prized asset as they prepare for their Premiership title. But that's because they probably know they're going to get a lot more interest in the young lad. The young lad has been titled something like the Irish version of Messi. If you're trying to think of what style of player this player is, I'm not saying he's a Messi article. He's just a kind of project-ish Messi style player. Likes the ball at his feet, many steps, fast, gets in behind, likes taking on players. So potentially an exciting future for the young lad as we move on to the final story for this evening. And that is that Mark Noble may have retired from West Ham, but he is still not hung up his boots yet because he is pulling them on for the under-18s and the under-21s for West Ham, because what he said was there's nothing better than seeing what the player's capable of doing than when you play with them. He said it's great. I get to see them firsthand, and I'm probably the best person in the world for them to ask questions about what's it like to break into the first team. Noble admits he needs to maintain his football fix after 18 years as a professional with West Ham before calling it a day in the summer. So that is a big, big plus for those youth players. But what he has gone on is said, he said, when Noble is not schooling academy players or watching the youth side, his time is now spent fielding calls from agents or liaising with the chairman, David Sullivan, and manager David Moyes. And he speaks to both every day, bouncing off ideas of Moyes and keeping Sullivan up to date with the football side of the club. And in the past month, he also went on and said he reached out and spoke to sporting directors across the Premier League and in Europe in the effort to learn more about the job. He said he spoke to Thiago Pinto of Roma and Paul Mitchell at Monaco, and there's been a few. They've texted and they've said if they need any advice, come out and see how it's done. And in terms of a technical director, these boys have a lot of experience than me, so why wouldn't I want to get better? We all do it different ways, and I'll do it my way. Noble will have a say on first team signings, but it's the academy he does keep coming back to. And he is hopeful that 2 to 3 young players will be blooded into the first team squad by the start of next season. West Ham were once regarded as the best club in the country at developing players, given the extravagant spendings of other clubs in the league. And Noble believes it's to be more important for West Ham to go back to producing young talent. Now, I think we do produce the talent. It's just about their pathway to the club. He said, in this role, I found a real affection for working with the academy and trying to get as many players into the first team as we can. He said the boy from Chelsea signed from Benfica, Enzo Fernandez, went there for 15 million euros to Benfica, and Chelsea had to spend 105 million pounds plus for him. Just shows you that recruiting young players is getting harder and harder. You need a Declan Rice from the academy because we can't spend that amount on a player, that's for sure. He said it's so important to bring the young boys through because of any English player who plays in the Premier League all of a sudden has a £30 million price tag. That's fantastic. And it's nice to know at some point we might not have to spend loads of money if we can bring players through. I love it. I love when you've got a guy like this who knows the club from the back end to the front end and wants to develop these young guys. Tomorrow evening, you want to be joining us. Trust me when I say this, because we've got the oracle of youth football, the academy at West Ham, Tony Carr, 9 o'clock. Join us tomorrow evening when we go through that. Thanks for watching. And of course, come on, you Iron.